Hello and welcome to how to do an explanation of paper 3 for the new GCSE History Edexcel paper. For us, for paper 3, we do Weimar and Nazi Germany between 1919 and 39. This video is designed to have a look at what the paper actually looks like, how sections A and B work, and how to possibly do section A. First of all, the paper lasts an hour and 20 minutes, and you've got two sections. Section A, which is the one we'll look at today, which includes an inference from a source, which is worth 4 marks, and an explain why something happened, which is worth 12 marks. Section B is where you're using sources and interpretations. Now, the difference is that with a source, you're looking at two primary sources. It could be a picture, or it could be a piece of text, or a diary, or a letter, or so on. With an interpretation, it's normally a point of view given from a historian. But more on that when we get to look at it. So in section B, you've got look at the usefulness of two sources, explain what is different between two interpretations. The next question is why are they different, and then how far do you agree with one? Okay, so question 1 in the paper. It's worth 4 marks, so I'd recommend giving it 5 minutes to do it. Here's an example from the specification on the website, the sample assessment. And it says, give 2 things you could infer from source A about Hitler's leadership in the Nazi Party in the 1920s. So first of all, have a look at it. So it talks about, I remember one of my first conversations with him, Hitler. It was nearly a quarrel. Power, screamed Hitler. Important word. We must have power. Before we gain it, I replied firmly, let us decide what we propose to do with it. Our programme is too vague. We must construct something which will last. Okay, so that's the other guy, Otto Strasser, talking about Hitler's programme. Hitler, who even then could hardly bear contradiction, thumped the table, another key point, saying sharply, power first, afterwards we can act as events occur. To me, I've got a couple of things here. One is his aggressive style. He's screaming and he's thumping on the table, so that would be my first point. And then down here it says power first, afterwards we can act as events occur. So the second of all is probably the suggestion that he's got some sort of plan, perhaps, that first we're going to win an election, second of all we'll then see how the events pan out. So a typical answer, what can I infer? The first point I would say would be that he was quite aggressive and firm. So he was aggressive. And then details from the source that I would use would probably include the thumping of the table and the screaming. Second thing that I can infer is that Hitler had a plan to get voted in. And details from the source that tell me this is the use of, we'll use the events afterwards. So there you can see how we've used the point, the inference, and then we've backed that up. Obviously make sure when you're going through these as well, although you're not going to be tested on it, that you do check your spelling. So aggressive with a double G. So point, evidence, point, evidence, 4 marks. Next up, we've got question 2, which is explain why there was opposition in Germany to the Treaty of Versailles 1919. Now remember, with this particular question, you're looking at 3 points. 2 of them they give you, and then a third you must come up with on your own. This is worth 12 marks, so you want to spend roughly about 15 minutes on this particular question, and you're writing 3 clear paragraphs. I'd probably write a mini conclusion perhaps at the end. So you want to follow the kind of Peel style. Just to help with this particular one, if you think about Germany and the Treaty of Versailles, why was there opposition? Well, if you sum up that hatred of the Treaty of Versailles into the word, or into the acronym LAM, Land, Army, Money, Blame, you can see here that we've got military, so they've mentioned army, and they've talked about land, territory. And then you could pick your own. So other reasons why there was opposition, you could go for money or you could go for blame. So we'll go for money, because I've planned this one, so I've written something on the other side, but you could equally go for blame. And then you want to follow a Peel style paragraph. So I'm not going to show you an entire answer for this one, because you're probably looking at about a page and a half, roughly. So here's a look. For this Peel paragraph, we've got PEEL. So the point is that money, there we go, caused lots of opposition from the German people towards the Treaty of Versailles. So I've used phrases from the question in my answer to start with. I've then used some specifics. So I know that in 1921, key piece of evidence there, when the Allies set the reparations bill for Germany, the people had to pay, another piece of evidence, £6.6 billion to both Belgium and France. And that's simply because they were the countries that were affected mostly by the damage from the war. And then explain why that causes opposition. So I've said this caused opposition, clearly showing that I'm now explaining it, because the German people did not feel that this was fair. Fair is my kind of key point. It had not been agreed, so I'm now pushing it further. It had not been agreed by Versailles, at the Versailles, what the final bill was going to be, and it would take 2 years later for it to finally be decided. On top of this, the German people were starving at the end of the war due to the British blockade. So you have got a number of different bits of evidence that you could put in there and examples, but it's really important that you explain why that led to opposition. And then for the L, what I've done there is I've talked about whether this was the most important or whether it wasn't the most important. So if I was talking about military, perhaps, maybe the Germans didn't really care that they'd got to shrink their military, but they were more interested in the fact that they had to lose money. So I've explained that. So this was the most important reason. So I've said that I would say that this is the most important reason. Then I've said why. It would leave them humiliated. And I've also mentioned that actually the immediate impact is that they had to pay a lot of money afterwards. So hopefully that's a clear paragraph answering the question. You want to do 2 more and then you're done. I hope that was useful. And if you want to see what section B looks like, then have a look at section B in my next video. Thanks a lot and good luck.